Most people walk through high school thinking they know who matters, who gets the spotlight, who deserves the mic. But sometimes, the person with the most powerful voice is the one no one sees coming. In this true-to-life inspired story, meet Naomi Reyes, a quiet girl at the back of the room, with a hoodie, a cracked pair of glasses, and a secret no one expected. She speaks 5 languages fluently, and she's about to speak her truth. If you believe that brilliance has no uniform, and stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and stay with us till the very end. Because this is more than a high school story. This is a wake-up call. Now, let's go back to where it all began. Most students at Northbridge High didn't notice the girl in the library during lunch hour. She wasn't loud. She didn't run for student council or try out for cheerleading. She sat in the same spot every day, second row from the back, near the window, and read. Not novels, not gossip magazines, newspapers, old academic journals, books in languages that most students couldn't even pronounce. Her name was Naomi Reyes. 17, junior year, glasses with a crack in the corner. She wore the same gray hoodie almost every day, the cuffs frayed from nervous picking. Her hair was usually pulled back into a messy bun, not for style, but for focus. She wasn't shy, but she wasn't social either. The kind of student teachers described as quiet but consistent. Until one Thursday in March, everything changed. It started with a substitute teacher. Ms. Patel, the regular AP World History teacher, was out with the flu, and the school had brought in a retired diplomat named Mr. Langston to fill in. He had the gravitas of someone who'd once had his picture in a history textbook, and the accent of a man who'd lived out of suitcases for most of his life. On that particular day, he asked a simple question. Can anyone tell me the linguistic roots of the word democracy? The class blinked. A few shrugged. A boy in the front row half-heartedly guessed Latin. Close, Mr. Langston said, but not quite. From the back of the room came a voice, soft but certain. Greek. Demos meaning people, kratos meaning power. Heads turned. It was Naomi. Mr. Langston raised an eyebrow. Very good. And how would you write that in Greek script? Without hesitation, Naomi stood, walked to the whiteboard, and began writing characters no one else in the room could decipher. Then, below that, she wrote out the same word in Latin, then in Arabic, then in Cyrillic. The room went silent. Mr. Langston watched her, amused and intrigued. How many languages do you speak, Miss? Reyes. I speak 5 languages fluently. Reading and writing. I'm studying 3 more. May I ask which? Spanish, English, Arabic, French, and Mandarin. I'm learning Russian, Farsi, and Latin. One of the students muttered, What the? Naomi sat back down like nothing had happened. Mr. Langston stared for a moment longer, then said, Well, looks like I'm not the smartest person in this room after all. That moment, recorded on 3 different phones and later uploaded to TikTok, hit 1.2 million views by the end of the weekend. The caption read, The janitor's daughter just embarrassed the entire AP class. Respect. Because that was the other thing. Naomi wasn't just a quiet girl. She was the daughter of Mrs. Reyes, the school's head custodian. A single mom who worked late shifts and sometimes cleaned classrooms while students were still in them. Some kids whispered about it behind her back. Others avoided her altogether. Naomi had gotten used to being overlooked until that Thursday. By Friday, teachers were asking her to help with translation during parent-teacher conferences. By Monday, the principal, Mr. Tompkins, called her into his office. He didn't smile when she walked in, just gestured to a seat and folded his hands. I heard you made quite the impression in Mr. Langston's class, he said. Naomi looked down. I didn't mean to, I just answered the question. "Don't be modest," he replied. "We've had 10 years of AP students come through this school, and no one's done what you did." She didn't answer. Her hands stayed folded in her lap. "I understand your mother works here." "Yes, sir." "You ever think about applying to any of those international study programs? Maybe a language immersion track?" She gave a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "They cost money and time. I have to work after school." He nodded slowly. "That's what I figured. Still," he opened a folder on his desk, "I'd like you to consider representing the school at the State Cultural Symposium next month. It's selective, but I can get you in. It would mean missing a few classes." She blinked. "Why me?" "Because we've been ignoring gold right under our noses," he said simply. "And it's time we stopped." Naomi didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't believe him, but because for the first time, someone did. The first thing Naomi did after leaving the principal's office wasn't call her mom. It was go to the janitor's closet. Not out of habit, but out of instinct. That was where she usually waited after her shift in the library, folding towels, organizing supply bins, helping her mom when she could. She liked the quiet, the stillness, the hum of machines and smell of floor wax. It was where no one expected her to be brilliant, and maybe that's why she felt safe there. But that afternoon, Mrs. Reyes was already waiting, holding her mop like a soldier at rest. "You okay?" she asked. Naomi hesitated, then nodded. "Mr. Tompkins wants me to speak at a symposium." Her mother raised an eyebrow. "You say yes?" Naomi shrugged. "I don't know yet." Mrs. Reyes gave her that look, the one she reserved for broken promises and half-truths. "You're scared." Naomi didn't argue, just looked down. "You've got a gift," her mother said softly, "and you don't owe anyone smallness." That night, Naomi sat at the kitchen table, typing an email she wasn't sure she'd send. It was a confirmation to the State Cultural Symposium Committee. She hovered over the send button, then clicked. The response came an hour later. She was in. The following week, whispers floated through the halls of Northbridge like pollen in spring. Naomi Reyes, the janitor's daughter, was going to represent the entire school at a state-level academic event. Some students were impressed. Some rolled their eyes. A few were outright nasty. "She's not even in any clubs. Does she even have friends? She probably memorizes dictionaries for fun." But there were others who saw something else, like Miss Danner, the aging French teacher with arthritic hands, who left a stack of used novels on Naomi's desk with a note. "If anyone can revive this school's spirit, it's you." And like Darius Nguyen, a freshman who barely spoke in class, but slipped Naomi a folded note during lunch. "My parents speak Vietnamese at home. I don't tell anyone because they think it's weird. But you made me think it's not." Naomi smiled when she read it. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was hiding. The State Cultural Symposium was held in a massive auditorium in downtown Raleigh. Naomi arrived wearing a pressed navy blazer borrowed from Ms. Danner and shoes that didn't quite fit. She clutched her flashcards like a lifeline. Her panel topic was Language as a Bridge in a Divided World. She stepped onto the stage under bright white lights, looked out at a sea of students, educators, and judges, then spoke. First in English, then in Arabic, then in Mandarin, then in Spanish. Her transitions were seamless, her tone calm but electric. She didn't just speak languages, she made them sing. She talked about the way language carried memory, how it preserved history, how it connected people who had nothing else in common. She shared how she translated hospital paperwork for her mom at age 9, how she taught herself grammar rules from library books, how her world was bigger than anyone assumed. When she finished, the applause came slowly, then all at once. Not polite, not performative. Earned. Back at school the next day, things were different. Not dramatically, no balloons or announcements, but eyes met hers. Doors didn't close as quickly. Teachers asked her real questions, not just about homework. Even the most skeptical students had a new tone in their voice when they said her name. And yet, not everyone was thrilled. Mr. Braxton, the senior guidance counselor, called her into his office 2 days later. His walls were lined with Ivy League pennants, but his eyes were cautious. "Naomi, I heard about the symposium," he said, flipping through her file. "Impressive, but I want to be realistic with you." She tilted her head. "Realistic how?" "Well, your GPA is strong, but you don't have extracurriculars. No AP track. Your mother's position doesn't give you the kind of leverage some colleges look for." Naomi stayed silent. "I just don't want you aiming too high and getting hurt," he added. She stared at him, her voice soft but sharp. "I speak 5 languages." "That's good, but no," she said. "It's not good, it's excellent. And I'm not asking for your permission to aim high. I'm just letting you know where I'm headed." She stood and left. Outside the office, Darius was waiting with a grin. "You just roasted Braxton," he whispered. Naomi smiled. Someone had to. By the end of March, Naomi Reyes was no longer invisible. She didn't become popular in the usual sense. No party invites, no sudden explosion of Instagram followers. But something had shifted. A quiet recalibration of how people looked at her, talked to her, listened when she spoke. And people did start speaking to her. Teachers asked her to proofread multilingual school flyers. Students from different backgrounds, Vietnamese, Haitian, Somali, began opening up to her, asking how to say this or write that. Even the cafeteria manager asked if she could help interpret for a new Guatemalan kitchen hire who didn't speak English. Naomi didn't say no. Not once. But she noticed something else too. The attention brought discomfort. Not for her, but for others. The type used to being the best, the smartest, the most noticed. Take Chelsea McBride, president of the National Honor Society, debate team captain, and proud early admit to Stanford. She never spoke to Naomi before the symposium. But the Monday after it aired on local TV, she cornered Naomi in the hallway by the lockers. "Hey," she said, arms crossed. "Saw your little presentation. Cute." Naomi blinked. "Thanks. I mean, it's nice you had a moment. Everyone gets one." Chelsea smiled, tight and thin. "Just don't let it get to your head." Naomi looked her in the eye. "You don't need to shrink someone to feel tall." Chelsea blinked. The smile vanished. That afternoon, Naomi walked into the school library and saw something that stopped her cold. Her mom, Mrs. Reyes, still in her custodial uniform, kneeling beside the big globe in the corner, cleaning it. "Mom?" Naomi whispered. Her mother looked up. "I didn't want to bother your space." Naomi walked over. "You don't have to do this after school anymore. They can assign someone else." Mrs. Reyes smiled. "I know, but I like it here. Besides, you should never forget where you started." Naomi helped her dust the lower shelves in silence, the two of them working side by side, one holding a cloth, the other carrying the quiet strength of generations. That moment meant more than any award. In April, Naomi was asked to join the planning committee for the school's Multicultural Language Day, a token event that usually involved store-bought samosas and Google-translated posters. But this year, she wanted more. She pitched a live student panel. Real conversations about identity, translation trauma, assimilation, and pride. Not the sanitized brochure version, the raw version. Teachers hesitated. Administrators frowned. Some students rolled their eyes. But Mr. Tompkins, the principal, backed her. "You want to do something real," he said. "Do it, but be ready. Real scares people." Naomi nodded. "So do girls like me, until we speak." The panel was scheduled for April 22nd. Naomi moderated. On stage with her were 5 other students, each from a different cultural background. The auditorium was half full, mostly out of curiosity. But 10 minutes in, you could hear a pin drop. One student talked about growing up translating hospital forms for his parents at age 6. Another shared how he changed his name to avoid bullying. Naomi read a poem, 5 lines, each in a different language, ending with one in English. "What you call foreign, I call home." The crowd stood, every single one. By the end of the week, posters from the event hung in every hallway. Even Chelsea McBride posted a clip to her story, without comment, but with the caption, "Respect." But then came the pushback. A local school board member saw the panel clip online. She wasn't impressed, called it too political. Sent a letter to the principal asking whether this was appropriate for school-aged children. Threatened to withhold grant funding if the district didn't return to traditional academic focus. Mr. Tompkins called Naomi into his office again. She sat down, spine straight, eyes calm. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said. "But this is pressure." Naomi folded her hands. "So, what now?" He sighed. "I'll handle the board, but I need you to keep being excellent. That's how we win this." Naomi nodded. "I don't want to be a symbol," she said. "I want to be a student who mattered." "You already are." That night, a chalk message appeared outside the school's front doors, scrawled in block letters. "If you don't like her light, don't stand in her sun." No one claimed it, but everyone knew. The next few weeks didn't feel like school anymore. They felt like something bigger. Naomi's panel had cracked something open. It started with small things. A new Somali English dictionary added to the school library. Spanish announcements during morning roll call. Students greeting each other in their home languages without embarrassment. But it didn't stop there. It spread. In Miss Liu's history class, a Korean-American student asked if they could study Asian American civil rights, not just European revolutions. In Miss Bloom's literature class, someone requested a unit on translated poetry. And in the cafeteria, a group of juniors proposed adding Caribbean dishes to the spring lunch menu. For the first time, the phrase diversity wasn't just something painted on a poster. It was in the air. Naomi didn't take credit. She didn't even speak much about it. She just kept showing up, helping, listening, translating when needed, stepping back when others needed to lead. But something was shifting, and not everyone welcomed it. It came to a head on a Tuesday morning, 3 days before the school's spring honors assembly. Mr. Braxton, the guidance counselor, stopped Naomi outside his office. "Got a minute?" he asked, already stepping aside to let her in. She followed. "I'll get straight to the point," he said, flipping a manila folder onto his desk. "There's been a nomination for the valedictorian address, a last-minute change." Naomi raised an eyebrow. "I wasn't aware that was still open." "It wasn't until last week." He tapped the folder. "Your name's in here now, officially." She blinked. "But I'm not at the top of the class." "You're not. You're third." "Then why?" "Because the staff voted," he said, voice low. "And it was unanimous." Naomi stared. "But be warned," he added. "There's pushback. Some parents are calling it political, saying it's not about grades anymore, it's about making a statement." Naomi leaned back in her chair. "And is it?" "No," he said. "It's about who's earned the mic." She nodded once. Then I'll speak. That afternoon, the Whisper campaign kicked into overdrive. Anonymous Instagram stories, group chats buzzing, rumors that Naomi got a pity vote, that the speech was just more woke PR, that it was unfair to students who'd worked hard their whole lives. She saw it, all of it, and didn't respond once. But she felt it. The night before the assembly, Naomi sat on her bed with her notes spread out like a paper ocean. Her mom knocked once, then stepped inside. "You okay?" she asked softly. Naomi looked up. What if they hate it? What if they hate me? Mrs. Reyes walked over, placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Then speak louder." Friday arrived with cold air and restless students in freshly ironed clothes. The auditorium buzzed with excitement and tension. When Naomi stepped onto the stage, the hush was instant. She walked to the podium, no music, no applause, just her and 1,000 eyes. She unfolded the paper slowly, looked out, and began. "I used to think silence was power, that if I just kept my head down, worked hard, spoke when spoken to, I'd be safe. But silence is not safety, it's invisibility. I am Naomi Reyes. I've been translating hospital bills since I was 9. I've interpreted for classmates who were too scared to speak up. I've cleaned classrooms after tutoring sessions. I've sat in the back, listening while people assumed I had nothing to say. Today, I'm standing in the front. Not because I'm perfect, but because I'm proof. That brilliance doesn't come wrapped in privilege. That language can be a weapon, but it can also be a bridge. That your worth is not defined by your zip code, your lunch schedule, or your last name. So, here's what I'll say to the next Naomi in this room. Don't wait to be noticed. Speak. In every language you know, loud enough to shake the walls." The silence that followed felt like forever. Then, thunderous applause, the kind that cracks ceilings. Naomi looked out and saw more than just approval. She saw recognition. She saw students in tears, teachers nodding slowly, her mother in the back row, hand over her heart. And in that moment she understood something. This wasn't just about her anymore. It never had been. By Monday, the video of Naomi's speech had been shared more than 500,000 times. It wasn't just students or parents or local news anchors talking. It was strangers from all over. Teachers in Milwaukee, students in Manila, activists in Johannesburg, commenting in different languages under the clip. She said what we've all felt. This is what school is supposed to be. Translated truth. But back at Northbridge High, the atmosphere was more complicated. Some students celebrated her. A few wore shirts that said, "Speak loud," in bold block letters. Someone even spray-painted a mural near the science wing, Naomi's silhouette with different languages spiraling from her mouth like constellations. Others still muttered. Some rolled their eyes when her name came up. One student anonymously left a note on her locker. "You're not special. You're just a janitor's kid who got lucky." Naomi read it once, then taped it to the front of her locker, not as shame, but as proof. Because she wasn't trying to prove she wasn't the janitor's kid. She was showing the world that being the janitor's kid meant something. 2 weeks later, Principal Tompkins pulled her aside in the hallway. "I've been approached by the district board," he said. "They want to meet you. Not just about college opportunities, about something bigger." Naomi frowned. "Like what?" "They want you to help design a district-wide program. Student-led multicultural mentorship, language and leadership development. You'd be its first official ambassador." Naomi stared. "I'm still in high school." "That's exactly why they want you," he said. "You don't wait for permission." The program launched in early June. It was called Bridges, Naomi's idea. A mix of peer tutoring, culture nights, and language workshops led by students from all walks of life. It spread fast. 5 schools joined by summer, 12 by fall. Naomi became the unexpected face of a movement, not because she chased the spotlight, but because she carried the story people didn't know they were waiting for. She graduated 2 months later, not valedictorian by GPA, but by voice. At the ceremony, instead of handing her a trophy, Principal Tompkins gave her something else. A framed photo of her mother standing beside the cleaning cart, with the caption, "What they saw, a janitor. What we missed, a legacy." The summer after graduation, Naomi packed for college, a full scholarship to a liberal arts university in the Northeast. Language and international studies. Room and board covered. And she brought 3 things: a worn-out Arabic textbook from the school library, a sticky note from Darius that read, "Still learning. Thanks for the push." Her mom's name tag folded carefully between pages of her speech. Before she left, she returned to the school one last time. It was quiet. Early morning. The hall still smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and cafeteria trays. She walked past her old locker, down the library steps, and into the custodial closet. Inside, she took a piece of chalk from the shelf and wrote one sentence on the inside of the door. The same door she had once leaned on to cry, to hide, to think. Brilliance doesn't need permission. Then she closed it and walked out. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or made to feel like your voice didn't belong, this story is for you. Not because Naomi Reyes was perfect, but because she showed the world what can happen when the quiet kid in the back finally speaks, and the world learns to listen. Not every legacy begins with applause. What would you have done if you were Naomi? Overlooked, underestimated, and then handed the mic in front of everyone. Do you think brilliance needs credentials, or is lived experience enough to change a system? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or made you rethink how we judge people, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes all it takes is one voice to wake up an entire room.